I had something that was on my mind this morning that I wanted to share. I was thinking about choices and how choices affect our lives and the outcome of our lives. And often hear the phrase that people say, you know what, we're a product of our choices. I'm like, a lot of people use that, right? Like, we're a product of our choices. And I thought about it, I'm like, okay, product of choice. So when I think of a product, particularly mathematically, it means multiplication. So if we're a product of our choices, it means we're a product. It's like a string of multiplication of choices that we're making. So for example, with my life or my one of where I'm at currently is at a 2. I'm calling a 2 as being a choice. And a product of something, a choice, another choice that I made. So let's say that the next choice is a 1. So I have a job, I have a career going, and I make a lateral move from one job to another. That choice, that lateral move choice, would be a 1, right? Because I was basically, it didn't affect the outcome of really where I was and where I'm going and what I'm trying to do. And likewise, right? If I say, you know what, oh man, I'm living in Texas, and I'm gonna make a bold move and move to Atlanta, Georgia. And being in Texas, I was at 2, moving to Atlanta, Georgia. You know what? Oh my goodness. I found a new church home. I got this great job. It was that the decision or choice ended up being a 3. So I started off at a 2. The product of that choice was 2 times 3. Now I'm at a 6, which is good, right? And likewise, we think of, not just the good things, but also the bad things that can come out of choice, right? Or at least some choice that we made, a product of bad decisions, missteps. You know what? You get with the wrong person. You end up making a wrong decision in a business move, and it's negative, right? So you got this long string. Okay, I was at a 2 choice and a 3 for moving to Atlanta. Then I got with the wrong person. That might have been, a negative 4. So I got this negative string going on, and so forth and so forth. And it's almost like, and I just picturing it in my mind, if you see these kind of your life or my life or anybody's life, saying, you know what, you're a string of all of these different choices, and some good, some bad. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, how does that work, right? When you see like some bad stuff, but it can turn into something good, or something good can turn into something bad, and vice versa. And I'm like, understanding in a way that, and I just went to scripture, Jeremiah 29:11. You know what? I know the plans for you, not to harm you, not to hurt you. God's not intended to hurt us, right? And I said, you know what? If I'm continuing this mathematical equation, this string of events that are taking place in my life or in your life, and God is intervening, then God is intervening in a supernatural way. A supernatural way that, affects some of the choices that I have. And mathematically, what that looks like in a supernatural way, you're talking about exponentially or exponents, when I raise a number to a power. So in the case of, I make, let's say that same decision, right, with moving to Atlanta, I said it was, I started off for 2. Product of that was my 2 times 3, because I did 3 times, as well as a decision was that good or whatever. And God exponentially actually stepped into it, into that good decision. And he said, you know what? He put it to the second power, right? So that would be, 2 times a 3 to the second power, which is 9. But then I get 18. I was at a 6 with God not in it. Now I'm at a 18 with God stepping in it. And I said, well, if God is not at odds with us, then God, he doesn't use odd exponents. He only uses even, because he's for us. He's even for us. He wants us. He desires us. He wants us to excel. So he doesn't use odd exponents. He's not at odds with us. Like, you know what? He has plans for us to not to harm us. And the reason why he doesn't use odd exponents, right, is because of some of your negative situations. So if I was to use the same choice of moving to Atlanta, and let's say Atlanta in this case was, I made a bad choice, right? It wasn't a +3, it was a -3. And if I take -3 to an even exponent, any of them, we'll use 2 in this case. -3 times, when you multiply it out, -3 times a -3, you get a positive because God stepped in it, an even exponent. And the reason why God is not at odds with either odd exponents, if I take -3 times -3 times -3, which is 3 to the -3 to the third power, that ends up still being a negative. So God is not at odds with you. So he would never use negative exponents in when he's trying to, never use odd exponents when he's trying to step into your situation. He's supernatural. He's going to use even. He's even. He's for you. He wants you to excel. So then I started thinking, okay, that's how God supernaturally steps into it. I have all these string of events, good choices, bad choices, this, that, and the other, that, you know what, that I want God to step into. But you have the enemy, right? You have the enemy also that wants to prevent you from really excelling in God's purpose and his plan, his desires for you. He doesn't want heaven to be brought down to earth, really, right? So things are supposed to be done in heaven before they're done on earth. And he wants to kind of destroy that, disrupt that, divide that. So you may think you're going to some supernatural, exponential, decision you're making, but the enemy say, you know what? It's a trick. I'm deceiving you. You thinking it's a great choice and God's going to be in it. Nope. I got a fraction waiting for you on that decision that is going to affect you, that you will be way worse off than where you were if I was just to divide it. So you got these string of choices that you've made, some good, some bad. The enemy has tried to affect, but God has intervened in a lot of these different situations where he's not at odds with you, so he's not using odd exponents, or even in your negative choices, they're actually turning out into positive outcomes, because God is trying to really steer you in a direction and even covering for you in a way that you don't even deserve. So then I said, okay, if I'm a product of my choices, there's also some zeros that can happen, right, in a product. And when you multiply anything by 0, you get 0. You don't even get the same thing. You get a 0. It takes that number. If I multiply 2 times 0, I get a 0. If I take 2 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 0, regardless of all the other choices that I made, I do and I put a 0, I get a 0. So then I reference Matthew 25 and 14, where we have the parable about the talents, right? All these individuals, did something with their talents. They had, one had 5, one had 2, one had 1. The one that had 1 didn't do anything with it. Nothing. In the case of this example, he multiplied whatever he had by 0. He didn't do anything with it. God gave him something, he didn't do anything with it. That's the one person that God called wicked. Not fruitful, wicked, and looked at that particular person in a negative way. So the one thing God cannot intervene is whenever we don't make a decision. Is whenever we take our talents, I'm saying in this case, our talents are gifts, not in the talents of parables, but our talents in gifts, and we sit on them. We hold them. We take our words, sit on them, and hold them. We take our mind and our hearts and sit on them and hold them and not do anything with it. God cannot intervene in those situations whenever we do that. So I think it's important to understand when we talk about we're a product of our choices, to really look at that and say, understand, like, even your bad choices, you know what? Yeah, it's a bad choice or a bad experience, but God can still intervene in those, right? There's always possibility for God to intervene. The biggest mistake that we could do is not do nothing or no thing with what we have and what God has given us.